Misuque Cronecte. Misuque Cronecte. I remember I giggled when I first heard this phrase pronounced properly. And I certainly will not hold you to that pronunciation. It's perfectly okay to say Misuque Cronecte or Misuque Cronecte. Before we take a look at what this term means, let's take a look at the words themselves. You have the second of them, concrete, spelled out for you on your podcast screen, and there you can see that it has a downward pointing accent on the first E in the second syllable of the word. And as you already know, this is one of those clues that will help you when you sit down to take the final exam. Now let's take a look at what the word itself means. You don't have to take 5 years of French to understand or to imagine what Misuque Cronecte is. Simply invert the phrase and it basically defines itself. As you surely have guessed, Misuque Cronecte means concrete music. That's its literal meaning. And you might wonder, what is concrete about this music, or what does concrete have to do with music? Let's take a look at the second of these possibilities. We all know what concrete is. It's an aggregate that is held together by a cement, and the mixture is used to create something. Believe it or not, Misuque Cronecte thus has something in common with concrete. It can, in fact, be made up of little tiny parts put together. So let's take a look at what the technique of Misuque Cronecte is all about. By definition, Misuque Cronecte is pre-recorded sounds that are used in or as a composition. That is, a composition can consist of, or it can consist entirely of, pre-recorded sounds brought together, or pre-recorded sounds can be used as a component of a composition, together with live performers. You probably have heard examples of Misuque Cronecte. Believe it or not, compositions of this sort have become a part of popular culture, and today you will learn how to identify them. Misuque Cronecte can be understood by examining its sound sources, basically the array of sounds that can be used in such a composition. Although composers like Barres profess to have no interest in them, he and other composers of Misuque Cronecte very often use traditional musical instruments or sounds, and you will very often find them used in or as a part of such compositions. The 20th century made available something that we take for granted today. That is electronically generated sounds. In fact, most of the tones that we hear around us are exactly those things. The sounds of doorbells, the sounds of car horns, etc. Electronically generated sounds have become a normal part of our musical experience. For example, most people these days who own a keyboard instrument are likely to own an electronic keyboard, one in which all the sounds are electronically generated. Although we rarely think of them as such, we all are familiar with or can recall examples of electronically manipulated sounds. Think of those interesting voices that you hear in cartoons or in movies. For example, Alvin and the Chipmunks. Such effects are produced by recording a sound and playing back the recording either faster or slower than it was while it was being recorded. Another thing that we take for granted today is amplification. It's such a normal part of musical presentation these days that we hardly notice it. Intellectually, most people grasp the notion that amplification is intended to amplify sounds, that is, to make them louder. But most don't realize the side effect of amplifying a sound. Amplification actually distorts sounds. In fact, if you were to have your favorite popular singer come to your home and sing for you in your living room without the aid of amplification, you might not recognize that person's voice. And that's precisely why many singers will not perform without the aid of amplification. It contributes to the quality of their voice. It alters its timbre. And finally, we turn to environmental sounds. The types of sounds that we don't normally think of as being musical. There have been and still are a good number of composers who are willing and in fact eager to expand the array of sounds that are used in music, and they turn to the environment, both to the natural environment, recording the sound of wind, rain, thunder, etc., as well as that of the artificial world, the sounds of buzzers, sirens, trains, airplanes, etc. So you can see any sound that can be recorded potentially can be used in a composition of this sort. Okay, now let's think of your own listening experience and where you might have heard an example of Misuque Cronecte. Unless you have been living under a rock or in hiding in a cave in the woods all your life, you are likely to have seen one of those commercials on television around Christmas, where there are cats, dogs, or birds that are singing Christmas carols. The creators of these compositions simply record the sounds of, let's say, the barking of dogs. They select the barks of the dogs according to their pitches, and they play them back so that they produce the notes of a song. So the next time you see one of these commercials, or if you hear the recording of one of these compositions, you can amaze and perhaps even annoy your friends with the fact that this is an example of Misuque Cronecte. The more precisely you pronounce it, the more annoying it will be. Misuque Cronecte.